On first impression, Clueless seems to be about a girl who gets everything wrong. Impossibly glamorous high school matchmaker Cher Horowitz is based on Jane Austen's character Emma, and the two characters share an arc that is pretty much the same, with a few 90s-ready updates. The writers add to the character of Emma, making Cher appear to fit into the dumb blonde archetype, not very bright and obsessed with aesthetics, status, and boyfriends. But when we take a closer look at the movie, we can clearly see that although she's based on a character notorious for messing stuff up, and definitely doesn't get everything right herself, Cher is actually pretty astute about a lot of things. Here's our take on how Cher Horowitz was right about almost everything. Despite people thinking she's a dumb blonde, Cher is pretty shrewd. Some of this comes from having a cynical father. He's a lawyer and she's very close to him. So it's likely that she grew up listening to him arguing cases and picking up a few pointers over the years. Some of the things she says are lifted straight from him, and it's clear that she's tenacious as a result of his tutelage.
Well, some teachers were trying to lowball me, Daddy. And I know how you say never accept a first offer, so I figure these grades are just a jumping off point to start negotiations.
Very good.
She knows that confidence goes a really long way, and she can manipulate situations purely based on the feeling that she's entitled to more.
You mean to tell me that you argued your way from a C+ to an A-?
You proud?
Honey, I couldn't be happier than if they were based on real grades.
Characters that get slotted into the dumb blonde archetype so often got stuck with essentially zero agency, but Cher was always totally willing to stand up for herself and go after what she wanted. She's also conscious of the dynamics at play in high school. For example, although she loves her best friend Dion, she understands that their friendship is a powerful coalition, which isn't only forged out of positive similarities.
Here's where Dion lives. She's my friend because we both know what it's like to have people be jealous of us.
They're much more powerful as an iconic duo than either would be alone, and thankfully they don't use their powers for evil, but instead for fun. While the other girls in the movie get caught up on their classmates, Cher has pretty good insight into the way teenage boys' minds work, perhaps because of watching the way her older ex-stepbrother Josh behaves.
Dion's going out with a high school boy. They're like dogs. You have to clean them and feed them, and they're just like these nervous creatures that jump and slobber all over you.
She sees through all of their bravado to the deeper truth that a lot of the boys of her own age act badly because ultimately they're anxious about their relationships, their status at school, even their looks. And she knows not to expect too much from high school boys too. While she doesn't always understand their motives, she does get that because of social conditioning, boys don't necessarily work the same way as girls do. Like, for example, when she acknowledges that Christian operates on a different time scale to her.
Christian said he'd call the next day, but in boy time that meant Thursday. So, okay, you're probably going, is this like an Oxyma commercial or what?
Although Emma, the character Cher is based on, notably lacks a lot of self-awareness, modern update Cher fares a bit better. She knows that she occupies a position of privilege, and she gets how lucky she is. But she doesn't see why everyone can't enjoy the same benefits she does. So in her own way, she tries to share her powers with those around her, to differing degrees of success. She shares her social kudos with Ty, knowing that associating with popular girls will go far at school.
The fact that you hang with Dee and I, well, that speaks very highly of you.
Another major way she tries to spread social cachet is through matchmaking, being aware that linking powerful social players to those with less power can boost the less powerful person's profile.
Like who? Let's see, who's available? There's Bronson. I got it. Elton.
Who's Elton? Oh my god, he's way popular. He's like the social director of the crew.
Yeah, his dad can get you into any concert, and I noticed him scoping you out.
And Cher also tries to share the wealth, literally.
Cher, what are you doing?
I'm captain of the Pismo Beach Disaster Relief.
I don't think they need your skis.
Daddy, some people lost all their belongings. Don't you think that includes athletic equipment?
These moments are often played for laughs because she oversimplifies complex situations. But a lot of her criticism of the way the world works is actually pretty on point and still feels super relevant today, years after Cher made her on-screen debut. Take this scene when she talks about the Haitian refugee crisis. Cher makes sense of it through the lens of her extremely privileged Beverly Hills upbringing, likening it to a garden party she held for her dad's birthday.
I had to haul out to the kitchen, redistribute the food, squish in extra place settings, But by the end of the day, it was like, the more the merrier.
The contrast between the two scenarios of a humanitarian crisis and a garden party at first makes Cher seem totally airheaded, but actually translating wider issues into ones that are more relatable to your audience is an effective way to get people to connect with things they might otherwise see as having nothing to do with them. And her conclusion is one of kindness, encouraging her peers, who come from similarly wealthy families, to share resources.
And in conclusion, may I please remind you that it does not say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty.
Cher's matchmaking operation begins because she realizes two of her teachers, who keep giving her grades lower than she thinks she deserves, are secretly lonely.
He's a miserable little man who wants to make everyone else miserable too.
Dee, that's it. We've got to figure out a way to make Mr. Hall sublimely happy.
So she sets about hooking them up.
What that man needs is a good, healthy boink fest.
She also works out which path to take with different teachers when she's negotiating her grades with them as well, based on how she thinks she'll be received. And she ends up finding a lot of success.
I told my PE teacher an evil male had broken my heart, so she raised my C to a B.
We see multiple instances of Cher reading people's needs throughout the movie and doing her best to act in the best interests of other people.
Hey, you know what'd be so dope? We got some really delicious takeout. I bet they haven't eaten all night.
Perhaps this is because after her mom passed away while Cher was still just a baby, Cher stepped into the so-called woman of the house role from a young age, and so felt the need to look after those in her family. And this particularly extends to looking after her dad.
What is this crap?
Daddy, it's from the Cut Your Cholesterol cookbook. Dr. Lovett says you've got to get down to 200.
The way she takes care of the people around her isn't necessarily intuitive. She's actually watching and listening to them and trying to meet their needs as a result.
Dee, when your allergies act up, take out your nose ring.
And linked to this ability to read the needs of other people is the fact that Cher knows that meeting those needs feels good for her, too, which is a good lesson for all of us. Being kind is good for the soul.
I had to give myself snaps for all the good deeds I was doing. It was so great.
She doesn't always get everything right. She eventually realizes that pushing Ty to be someone she isn't wasn't the right move, but her choices always come from a place of trying to do what she thinks is the right thing.
I am just not interested in doing it until I find the right person. You see how picky I am about my shoes, and they only go on my feet.
Cher's virginity is something that's highlighted by other characters as a flaw.
You're a virgin who can't drive.
Oh, that was way harsh, Ty.
And in high school, being a virgin can feel like an all-encompassing problem.
The PC term is hymenally challenged.
But despite this, Cher isn't worried about her virginity. In fact, when it comes to her own love life, Cher is cautious and willing to take her time with everything, which means she often doesn't get as easily hurt as some of her friends. We get an interesting insight into how her mind works when she does try to lose her virginity. She opts for Christian, a guy who is, to the audience, at least pretty obviously gay.
Let's watch the movies.
Oh, okay. Christian had a thing for Tony Curtis, so he brought over Some Like It Hot and Sporadicus.
This is an interesting moment of seemingly unintentional self-sabotage. Cher is attractive and popular, and we know from earlier in the movie that she'd have no problem hooking up with, for example, Elton. But she chooses someone who she feels is more on her wavelength, who she likes as a friend. And she stays true to herself. Although she's experiencing external pressure to lose her virginity, she just isn't attracted to the average high school guy, and she isn't gonna force the issue.
Searching for a boy in high school is as useless as searching for meaning in a Pauly Shore movie.
It can be super tough to stay chill and rational when people around you are experiencing things you'd like to have. But Cher stays cognizant that when other people experience happiness, it doesn't take anything away from her.
Even though I was alone, I was really happy for Ty. It's like that book I read in 9th grade that said, "'Tis a far, far better thing doing stuff for other people."
And that way of thinking extends beyond just her friendships to the way she thinks about global issues. For example, in that scene where she talks about Haiti, she says,
And so, if the government could just get to the kitchen, rearrange some things, we could certainly party with the Haitians.
the only time she steps out of this positive mindset is when her burgeoning feelings for Josh are threatened by Ty's feelings for him. But after a week of soul searching, she apologizes to Ty.
No, I have been going down a shame spiral. I cannot even believe I was so unsupportive of your feelings for Ja.
This is a really brave moment, which shows us how pointless being jealous or trying to control other people's feelings actually is. Here, Cher shows us that we don't need to jealously guard what we have, because what's for us won't go by us. Cher Horowitz is often wrongly remembered as an airhead, but actually she gives us some really smart and important lessons. From taking care of other people to not getting too hung up on boys at school. She was even right about how fun a night in can be.
I know it sounds mental, but sometimes I have more fun vegging out than when I go partying. Maybe because my party clothes are so binding.
But the most key lessons she gives us are that you should always come from a place of kindness. Because not only does it benefit other people, but it makes your own life happier too. You should be willing to say sorry if you hurt someone.
I'm so sorry, Ty. Cher, I'm really sorry.
And most importantly, you should learn from your mistakes and make changes so you can do better moving forward. And when you do that, the karmic retributions can be pretty great. That's the take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.